Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher Sakyamuni.
Okay. Yeah, let me share the screen. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, William, could you read this?
Suppose in a place filled with all the evil-hearted bandits of the 1,000,000,000-fold world, there is a merchant leader who is guiding a band of merchants carrying valuable treasures over a steep and dangerous road. And that one man shouts out these words, "Good men, do not be afraid. You must single-mindedly call on the name of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world's sounds. This Bodhisattva can grant fearlessness to living beings. If you call his name, you will be delivered from all these evil-hearted bandits." When the band of merchants hear this, they all together raise their voices saying, "Hail to the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world's sounds." And because they call his name, they're at once able to gain deliverance, inexhaustible intent, and authority, the authority and supernatural powers of the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, perceiver of the world's sounds, are as mighty as this. So this one is, I think pretty hard to believe. I hope I never have to test this, but the sense that like this section where it's like, say someone is in jail and they single-mindedly think of this bodhisattva that they will be released. It's hard using like common logic to understand how this could be so. So I think for a normal person like me, there's a degree of faith where I have some experience with what I could interpret as the compassionate intervention of bodhisattvas in my life. And when I have difficulties and I say the great compassion mantra or think of Avalokiteshvara, I don't expect that I'm necessarily the thing that I'm resisting. I don't necessarily believe that it's going to be over, but that perhaps the help will come in a way that is unexpected. And if I'm too rigidly minded about how I expect that help to come, that I may not appreciate it when it does. And perhaps it's even a changing of my mind towards acceptance, towards no longer resisting. And the situation that's undesirable could even then be a cause of letting go of aversion and kind of a stimulus for practicing perceiving emptiness real time, and cultivating, even grounding myself further in a right view. So, but it's, the assurance that we'll be saved from any sort of harm is certainly, a very beautiful promise. I think it seems kind of like a promise in this.
So, were you here last time?
No, I missed last time.
Okay, and tell me, right? You were not here last time, right?
Right, I missed also.
Okay, here. Wow. Let me put this way. It just happened to me last few days. I don't know whether you call as coincidence or miracle or not. Okay. So let me tell you a story now. Tell me, you recognize the boy who has the long hair here? He came here in and out. Did you see him? Tell me.
Oh yeah, at the temple with the one with the, what's his name with the long hair? I saw him come in and out there.
Devin.
What is it?
Devin.
Okay. At the At the summer camp. Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, he came from New Jersey, and I encouraged him to come here. But anyway, so he has some rough life. Anyway, it's pretty complicated, but let's put it this way. So let's see here. If I recall correctly, on Tuesday he's supposed to fly to North Carolina, but the plane was canceled, and he gave up everything. When he got back to our temple, what happened? Midnight, he walked away without letting anyone else know. Midnight. And what happened? Yes, I did. I took my car to run around to look for him, but no van, nothing. I could not find him. And I came back around almost 2 o'clock in the morning, a.m. So around 6 o'clock, his mom called, and I told her that she need to call him. So yes, she got him, and she said that he want to talk to me because he want to help one homeless guy. And I called him, and what happened? He stayed in the shelter in downtown Louisville. And the reason why he picked up my phone, because somehow he cared for that boy. The boy has the same age as him. But that boy encouraged him to get back to the temple. So I asked Thầy Giáo Đạo to go there and pick him up, bring him back to the temple. So my point is that I don't know whether it's just a miracle or coincidence. Without that young man encouragement, Devin, he said that he gave up. He even left a note that he run away from whoever. He's 21. So he wrote a note. I still have his note that he said that I run away, don't try to find me. So my point is that without that young man, the young man that he met at the in front of the shelter downtown Louisville, we would not know where he heading to. I mean, where David heading to. That would be the big mess for our temple as well as his parents. So somehow this young boy came on the right time to tell him that you better go back to the monastery. You have everything there. Why you need to run away? So he's here with me, the young man. That young man, we keep him here with me. Actually, he is a homeless guy too. But he came on the right spot, on the right times. Tell him the right things so that he could go back. What do you think, William? Is that coincidence or a miracle?
It's, yeah, I mean, coincidences are in and of themselves, because so many different things could happen. Like, I even think I don't think it's coincidence in the sense that there's no rhyme or reason to it. There seems to be something else happening here. I agree. So it's I don't know that I would go, I guess it depends how we define miracle. Like, frequently I would think of a miracle as maybe like making something out of nothing, or something that completely defies the laws of physics. It's definitely like, it seems like that person was there for a reason. Like, there was something behind the scenes happening as a really compassionate act. Just the timing, the influence, like how big of a difference he could make for such a small thing.
Yeah. Now here, his mothers live in North Carolina. So he came up here with his sister. On that morning, his sister lived in Louisville, but somehow they have argument. So that morning, she dropped him there in the front of that shelter to meet Devin there. And of course, basically he's homeless now. So we took him in.
Wow.
And we don't know much in detail about his background, but at least somehow he came the right times. I don't know whether the Bodhisattva sent him to help us to resolve the problem or not. Otherwise, it'd be chaos. And otherwise, his mom would blame on me everything that he made mistake, especially Devin. So again,
Yeah,
go
it
ahead.
makes me think of like when they describe Buddha lands, they talk about the roads bounded by ropes of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And I initially, when I first read stuff like that, I kind of wondered, like, why would you need to bind these roads by ropes of gold? But then when I think about it in the sense of protecting us on the path,
Mm-hmm.
and it not just being something that protects us on the path, but it's like beautifully adorned as well. So like this situation was kind of like, instead of something going off road and causing a big problem, it was like there was a, like, you know, how we talk about the transformation bodies of bodhisattvas, but appearing not in a way that is excessive or unmatched, but just like this subtle and kind of perfectly matched situation. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you think about this? This just happened a few days ago to me. And otherwise, if Devin, he said that when he got back, he said that he would keep move on until he, I don't know. He said that until he tied whichever. And at that moment, we could not find him, and would be the mess. It will be a mess for our temple. Will be a mess for even for his mom. His mom may come here and make the mess for everything. Tell me, what do you think? Is that miracle or is that coincidence?
So I'm going to agree with William where it's neither one. So coincidence, I'm not into coincidences anymore. I don't believe in coincidences. I think everything, is some kind of karmatic.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of karma that's flowing between everyone and every event that happens. And so in miracles, like William said, I think that's more of just like something from, I have the same opinion of miracles as something from nothing. So that seems a bit more extreme, but for sure the right karma was there for everyone to be aligned. And not only did this guy help Devin by realigning him and encouraging him to come back to the temple and have gone through the experience recently himself to know that, hey, you have everything, don't give it up. And by doing that, not only did he help get Devin get back to the temple so he could get back home, he helped himself. So where he was homeless for the day, now he's at a better place being with the temple with people that can support him and help him, have a safe place over his head. So yeah, coincidence, I think not, but for sure some kind of karma rolling through. And like you said, bodhisattvas are, invisible beings kind of helping align things to happen appropriately for everyone involved, including the temple and the community and his family. And
that's why somehow before I became a monk, I really like to do meditation. That's all. I didn't want to decide Buddha name, decide the mantra, and so forth. I like to do meditation. That's all. But after become a monk and have to deal with all kind of problems for myself and helping others, and I learned that lesson. The lesson that we alone could not solve the problems. We need to rely upon the Buddha power, the Buddha and Bodhisattva blessing. And that's why every day I recite compassion mantra at least 7 times, and then the average is about 21 times. So I think, in my view, up to now, probably Bodhisattva make things happen at the right time, at the right moment, at the right person. Otherwise, it become a big mess. Yeah, thầy giáo Pháp. So this is just happened few days, and you don't know that, right?
No, I know.
Yeah, this is
Wow, what that
headache for the last few weeks now. But
wow.
I'm happy to send him back on Friday. That's all. But the young man, he's still here with me.
Oh, so Devin already went back to New Jersey?
On Friday
Mm.
morning. Yeah. Anyway, so again, yeah. That's why for common people, they will not believe that. William, they could not believe that. Only when we work in the path of spirituality, we would recognize that this is happening because the Buddha and Bodhisattva help us. They would not let us to fall down. If we have sincerity to work on the path and to help people. That's unbelievable, right?
I don't think it's unbelievable. I think it takes some experience to believe it while being responsible. Because like which sutra was it? It's the I forget it now because it's been a while since we discussed it. The one where the Buddha says, don't just believe something because I say it. Don't just believe something because whatever.
Kalama Sutra.
The which one?
Kalama Sutra.
Kalama Sutra.
Kalama Sutra.
Yeah, it seems like until someone they can have faith in it, but I think it's still reasonable to question that until they have some experience. And even though when we have some experience, there seems to always, not always, but a lot of times there still be room for doubt, even if it's a pretty amazing experience, like the temple where the water stopped just at the right level, so that when there was the flood, so that the monks were unharmed, or like my experience in Peru, where I felt like it was my connections, my roots in Buddhism that actually helped me to normalize, or just different turning points in my life that were kind of turned around something that could have been seen as so arbitrary. Like one night we were at a Chinese buffet and with a few friends, and we were talking about Buddhism, and one of the guys who's a Christian, loved guns, loved knives, he collected them. He was like, hey, yeah, there's a Buddhist temple on Emerson and 30th. It was like Tuesday night, and we just let's go check it out. And that was like a turning point that was huge. That guy's, I still see him. He's still in my life. So I think there are, there is this guidance that it can be mistaken as coincidence or as arbitrary, but the effects that it have can be so dramatic that it seems like it reinforces the idea of these compassionate forces.
Yeah, so that's why in my path, I encourage people that don't worry when we encounter this type of crisis. Buddha and Bodhisattva never let us go. They will follow us and support us in one way or others spiritually. Yeah, so it's now again for me. It's happened many times, not one time like this. Many times. That's why for me it's just not coincidence. It's miracle. I have that type of strong belief now. Before I didn't. I get based on the scientific proof, but throughout my lifetime as a monk, I recognize that it's not the thing that human mind could think about. So what do you think, Tammy?
Yeah, I mean, this is very similar to what we were talking about earlier in class earlier today, I believe, just about the power of the mantras. We were talking about how, the power of the mantras, and how if you're in a state of fear, and you repeat these mantras, they'll help bring calm and peace to you. And I think this, again, just highlights it all. And I know it's definitely true for myself that if I ever get in that state where I'm upset, to help pull me out of it, I can recite a mantra, and it helps, stop that fear, and just kind of bring me back to calming down, um, and feel supported too. So even though you might feel like you're alone and you're in this all by yourself, if you have the mantra to repeat, then you're supported. Might not be by visible beings, but definitely by invisible beings. They're definitely there to support and hold you up.
Mhm.
And even in this class this afternoon, there was a lady that said when she was traveling, and this passage here really brought that back to mind, because when she was escaping from Vietnam, by boat as a child, they encountered pirates 3 different times. And even though they were attacked, no one was harmed. She said no one was harmed. Even though they crashed the boat, even though they came upon the boat, nobody was harmed. And she said before she left Vietnam, her grandmother had given her a prayer to recite. She said recite it every night before you sleep. Recite it while you're on the trip. Anytime you're awake, recite this. And so she said she constantly recited that mantra, and she felt for somehow that protected them, especially with the pirates. And that's just unbelievable to me, because you hear such horrors of, even encountering those on people's trips escaping Vietnam. So that just brought that story back to mind.
So the chapter 25 that I told you, that this is the chapter we are learning right now.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
I need to see if that one is in English. I'm glad you said that was one of them you're reading.
Yeah. So that's why. That's why somehow at our in front of our temple we put the one statue. That's why we trust her. We believe in her to bless us on the way that we walk in the spiritual path. Nhờ thầy giáo đạo giáo pháp đây thầy.
Yeah, I think it's I encounter a lot of this thing like this. So and I also heard a lot of especially for the book people, we recite the name of the One Yin Bodhisattva, and when they are on the boat, they always do that. And you know what? They all encounter the good thing. That means they all say. Just like Tammy said that the lady in the morning class, she told about her own experience. Usually, when you see the Thai pirate, oh my goodness, it's terrible. It's really terrible. And she encountered 3 times. So basically, yeah, every time when I have a difficulty for some of the problem, I cannot be able to solve it. I recite her name. So and not too long later, I'll be able to find a solution. So that usually I did that. So it worked all the time.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep again. Only when we are in that kind of situation, we recognize for the outsider, they may not believe that. And William, it's not easy to believe if they are outsider, if they don't practice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not a foreign concept in the Western world, because it's the same idea is present in Christianity. Mm-hmm. And people, so it's no more different than like in conceptual form. Mm-hmm. The idea of it, the mechanism of it's no more different than like praying to Jesus or praying to angels or to God. So I think it's a common thing that I don't think a Christian could take issue with the idea. An atheist might, because an atheist would probably take issue with the Christian idea as well. So while it's hard to believe, but still a very commonly held sort of belief.
So basically, this is that's why in Buddhism we have the Bodhisattva vow and Bodhisattva practice. So basically, that is the vow Therefore, when we're the living being in need, that the vow will be fulfilled, right? So that's how they practice the Bodhisattva practice.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That's good conversation for the first 30 minutes. Let's go back then. Thank you. Yeah, Tammy, would you like to read next, please?
World sounds, and because
Right here.
oh,
Sorry.
if there should be living beings beset by numerous lusts and cravings, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and then they can shed their desires. If they have great wrath and are, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and then they can shed their ire. If they have great ignorance and stupidity, let them think with constant reverence of Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds, and they can rid themselves of stupidity. So I don't know what that word is. Is that, I guess that means greed though, right? If you're releasing cravings, then the other one's going to be greed. Okay. So it's just speaking of,
Tim, are you talking about ire?
Yeah.
Ire, I think, is synonymous with anger.
Anger. Okay. So it's just talking about holding Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world sounds. If you can behold the name, then you can release the cravings, the anger, and the ignorance.
You think it's possible? What do you think?
I think it. I would like to think it's possible. Now, for sure, in like for short term, it's helpful. I know that for sure. And so you would think if you would continue the practice for like it would have a long-term effect on you. But to think that you could just start doing that and you know, stupidity and anger would just completely vanish, that's not realistic. But I think with enough practice, then yes, those things could be alleviated. Just like he just mentioned, you know, when he's got a problem coming up with the solution and he repeats the name, then later on the solution comes up. So it's definitely a process, but it's not going to be instantaneously happening.
So how about when we think the names of, let's say, Trump, let's say Pelosi Nancy, the red people, and so forth. What are our emotions toward those people?
So even just you saying the names, I'm getting anger, right? Anger and frustration, and you know, so yeah, I guess it could be with the name too, and what it represents is just a calming and a peacefulness.
Yeah. So let's say we think about Dalai Lama, right? We think about the Pope and whoever, right? So emotion will have some sort of influence based on their names and form, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. What do you think, William? Does that happen?
Yes, I definitely think so. And because we're aligning our mind in a sense where if we're sincerely revering this person, then we're honoring all of the things that Bodhisattva stands for. And if we're putting compassion, selflessness in a place of honor, then that is transformative for our mind. And then, like Tammy said, it, you know, immediately it may have an effect, but if we don't maintain that attention, then whatever patterns we developed will return. I think it can be transformative, like a longer period of being immersed in it, and then where those patterns wouldn't return of themselves, but the possibility for them to return, I don't think wouldn't be vanquished until, you know, full enlightenment or through really setting firmly on the Bodhisattva way, because there's always the possibility to go the other direction. But I've had experience of that in my life. Like Tay, early on when I had met you years ago, I often think back to the number of times that I would because I remember in Louisville with you reciting the 108 times the Great Compassion Mantra. And it not seeming like a big deal at the time for me, because I was all in. I didn't have other things that were pulling on my mind. And a few times since then, and I saw like how transformative that was for just the thoughts that came into my mind. Like what, you know, the range of what sort of thoughts would come in. It seemed very purifying. So I think if we practice one thing for a prolonged time, then we develop that sort of pattern.
So I used to tell the lay people that the way they set up the Buddha altar at homes could illustrate how much sincerity they have. Or when you walk into your friend's house, the way they put the image, any kind of image, whether it's God, Buddha, or their family members and so forth, you may have some sort of feeling or understand about their view of lives, right? Whether they are more spiritual one or whether they are more mature one, whichever. Because that's what they displace externally. That's what they express externally. That's their what they call their mental projection, right? So let's say if we are more spiritual person, right? If we are spiritual people, we put the Buddha statue or image right in the front of the living room, or so that the guests can come. Whenever the guests come, they recognize that we are more spiritual, right? If we would like to have some sort of attachment to the wealth, right? We put something to display how rich we are, right? or if we have some titles or status in society or communities, we put something, right? So that people can recognize right away when they walk into our house. So whichever thing that happened, our mind will be projected outwardly, especially how we decorate, how we design the house, we set up the house. Is that right, Tammy? What do you think?
So I agree, but I didn't realize that's what was happening.
Really?
Yeah, no, I didn't realize. I mean,
you now
because,
realize,
yeah.
right?
Well, I don't entertain ever. So whatever I have, I don't see whatever I have in my living room or my hallway or in my home at all to project out, how I want people to interpret me. But for my own sense of being, like in my living room, I have the Buddha statues and the Bodhisattvas, but then I also have statues of Mary and Joseph and the angels. And then I have paintings of Buddha and angels. And so for me, it's just to bring myself comfort and my family comfort. And I know when I was living in my last house before I got divorced, my ex-husband insisted we put all of our diplomas and certifications. They were on the bedroom wall, which is just so crazy to me. I'm like the last thing I want to go to sleep to is looking at my master degrees, or But to him, it was very important. Like he wanted, I don't know. So I think you're definitely correct that's But for me, it's not to so people come in my house and see that I'm a religious person or anything. I do it for my own comfort and the comfort of my children. But I've kind of messed that up because my kids get frustrated because I have the Buddha statues and the Bodhisattva statues, and they get mad because they can't sit on their couch because of their feet point towards the Buddha. So my son is all upset. He's like, it's so much pressure. I mean, sometimes he just completely, so I've been thinking the next house I get, I need to have a spot just for a prayer room or something. But I really do like having them in the living room, but you do have to be kind of, have more reverence. So but yes, I agree with what you're saying for sure.
Yeah. How about you, William? You explore to the that you went to so many friends' house, right? You recognize what they say. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you really get a sense of where people place importance, whether or not we're conscious of it. I think that happens for us, and it makes me think about, you know, I have a separate, we have a room downstairs, and we alternate 6 months. So Lisa has baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph up there for 6 months, and then we alternate, and the Buddha's up there in the living room. And
Okay.
I feel bad when I don't keep my upstairs room clean, because I have like my altar set up over here, and I always feel like I could do more, but then you know, weekends there's always something else that I end up doing, and I haven't adorned it as well as I could. And I felt that way for like a long time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I remember that probably more than 10 years ago, I went to Virginia, and one layman, he invited me to come to his house. And guess what? With the whole set of shell, he put whether the bottle or the empty bottles of whiskey, the whole set of table or shell. Of course, I know he loves whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Yes.
he loves alcohol, that's what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, so when we walk into the house, we could recognize this the view of life in some sense. Yeah. Thầy giáo Pháp, have you seen that? You recognize us, Thầy giáo Pháp, right?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, when we walk into any, actually, I rarely, when I was a layman, right, I rarely go out and go to any party. No, I don't do those things. I only spend my time to help the elder, the one who cannot be able to help by themselves. So I also help to teach the kids as well, and I also do my practice at home. That is most of my time. So I go to work, I go home, or I go to visit the nursing home, because I have the godmother. She was in the nursing home during that time. I visit her maybe 4 or 5 times a week. I usually take care of the elder people. So I don't go to friend house often. No, very rare. Uh, so so my friend is, most of them is religious. So
Okay. Yeah. Our discussion then. Yeah, go ahead, Thầy giáo Pháp. This one here.
yeah, the most inexhaustible in pen, the Bodhisattva achiever of the world shall possess great authority and supernatural power, as I have described, and I'll confer many benefits. For this reason, living beings should constantly keep the thought of him in mind. If a woman wishes to give birth to a male child, she should offer the obeisance and arm to the Bodhisattva, perceiver of the world self, and then she will bear a son, blessed with marriage, virtue, and wisdom. And if she wishes to bear a daughter, she will bear one with all the mark and compliance, one who in the past planted the root of virtue and it loved it and respected by many persons. I could not be able to read more. Okay. Yeah, I think it's this Bodhisattva here is her vow is to according to whatever the request from the living being, and if they sincere, right, she will respond in time. So for this case, and the Bodhisattva said that if you want to have a son or daughter, and if the mom requests that, and beside the name sincerely, and yeah, I think it's she will get it. What does that mean? The sun is represent for the wisdom and what? Let's see. Let me see. The wisdom and marriage, I think. And the daughter represent for the virtue, right? So why the Bodhisattva give this thing to the living being? Because living being, right? That's what they need. So according to their need, and let's give them first, then later we can teach them. So that's the whole idea. That's why in the six paramita, right? The of the Bodhisattva, the first one is called the dana, or the charity, or the generosity. That's why even it's most important to create the good affinity or good connection with the living being.
Yes. How you tell me? What do you think? If you wish to have a girl, you get a girl when you pray to her, and if you wish to have a boy, you get. Is that possible? Tell me.
So these are kind of new concepts to me, because growing up and just the family I was in, you were just happy with what you were given. So whether you have a boy or a girl, a beautiful child, a stupid child, like you don't have you're just happy to have. So it's not like you're even able to have a desire to have a girl or a boy, or a desire to have a beautiful child or a smart child or a kind child or a compassionate child. You're just basically, this is what you're given, and you go on with it. So when I first was learning with you, and you start talking about how the power, of the mother and her thoughts and her mind, and when she's pregnant, that really hit home. And I started to understand that you could really cultivate the child within throughout your pregnancy. And so adding this piece to it of wanting a boy or just seems to kind of flow along with all of it. So now it doesn't seem as impossible as if you had asked me 2 years ago. I would have said no way. But it's
Okay. Yeah. How you, William? You wish to have another one?
Oh yeah, we've wanted to for a while. My wife definitely has a much stronger desire for it. I think it would be fantastic. I think it would be great. But I also don't want to cultivate the desire so strongly that if we don't, that it's a problem. So, and at this point, Lisa is she's 48, so it's unlikely. We tried again starting like about 4 years ago, and we're pretty very regular about our efforts, and she had a lot of miscarriages, and so we kind of get our hopes up, and then once there were even twins. So I mean, I don't feel within myself this strong desire. Like I notice, like my desire comes from Lisa would really like to have one. Samaya would be great for her to have a sibling. And I really enjoy being a father. And so I think I would be thrilled if we had another child. So, and I've certainly prayed to Avalokiteshvara about it. So like in the earlier part where we were where we were talking about, like, where I mentioned how, or maybe sometimes we paid Avalokiteshvara, what we want is not always how the prayer is answered. Because getting what we want is not necessarily the best thing for the Buddha way, because like wanting, desire is like can be a source of suffering. So I try to recontextualize whatever I have towards just like appreciating what we do have. The fact that we do have a healthy young daughter, and I mean, Lisa was in her 40s when she got pregnant and had that child. So that in of itself is already a miracle. She, you know, I met her, it would have been 10 years ago. Yeah, she would have been 38. And she had been in a relationship for 15 years, and they never really tried, but you know, they could have had one, like, so something didn't work there. And then that right away, when we decided to have a child, it was immediate. It was like the very first month. I actually like felt in the moment this just like beam of like this like beam of light, like teeny beam of light, just super fast. And that's really interesting. That's really interesting to me. I haven't experienced that since then. So yeah, it's some experiences like that where I have prayers where it's hard to say, because I guess some part of me, I look at our situation, and maybe there's reasons why it's better if we don't have another child. Just maybe like stress on Lisa, or whatever it may be. I don't know. So it's an open question to me, the praying. But I could see a mechanism for how, just like the situation where that young man was at the timing of when he was at that homeless shelter, when he could say something to Devin, how there's like a mechanism for the force of compassion for those things to come together. And there's also a mechanism for filtering out a boy versus a girl. Male sperm swim faster, but don't live as long as female sperm. So the location of the egg at the time of intercourse is going to be influential on which sperm are able to reach the egg. So there could be a mechanism by which that's possible. But I think it'd be cool to do a study. You know, you get a bunch of people, and a group of them, they pray to Avalokiteshvara, a group of them, they don't. That's kind of my medical mind thinking of, like, we see the study, and this is what happened. These people wanted girls, these people, you know.
Yeah, I don't know whether I told you yet, two American couples approached my master, Xuyên Hoa, and asked for boys. And they said, yeah, he would pray for them. And they did. And actually, I met those boys at my master temple. And again, whether we call miracle or coincidence, or come from sincerity, or what does it come? Like you say, when you have the right mind, with the right thought, right deed, things will come to us, the right movement. Yeah, because about right karma, good karma there. Yeah. And actually, we can say that many Buddhist ladies, whether they are Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and so forth, they love this part, because in the past they prefer to have a boy. And you know, in how Asian traditions was about, right? They prefer more boys than girls. The boy could take over the family heritage. Yeah, that's why they love this passions. That's why they sincerely decide these Bodhisattva names. Of course, in the West, like you and Tammy mentioned, whether boy or girl, we still love them. but somehow even up to now, some family they still have that kind of pressure toward boys. So what they love that when they got the boys, and like thầy Pháp mentioned, yeah, Buddhist probably give them the great gifts so that they can start to do the practice or start to walk on the path of spirituality. So yeah, most of them love this part. So how about you, Tammy? Did you pray anything when you got first son and first daughter, or you just got them naturally?
Yeah, no, I wasn't, I didn't pray or anything. So, I just got them naturally, and actually, looking back now, it was not a good point in my life at all during either pregnancy. So I'm very, very blessed that everything's turned out.
Yeah, so we got some sort of bad connection, Tammy. We could not hear you much. It is slow. You got a good spot at home, good Wi-Fi.
So well for both of them and all of us. So
Oh, you
I
better
think
now.
10 years ago. Where were you at 8 years ago? Like before he was having a vasectomy.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Sorry, Tammy. Somehow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you repeat again? So the first part it's
Yeah.
hard for us to hear. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I didn't pray during either one of my pregnancies. I was kind of at the point in my life where I was working full time, taking night classes and studying for the CPA exam with my first child. So I was full time studying and working, did all my life really. And with my second child, I wasn't in school, but both of my pregnancies, I was very full of anxiety, fear, a lot of like really not healthy emotions. So I'm very blessed that both of my children turned out the way that they did. And even with my second child, when I was going through the pregnancy, that was the first time I ever started doing yoga. I did pregnancy yoga classes, and that really helped me not only with my pregnancy, but just in general. And so after I started having that experience of doing yoga classes, I told my ex-husband, I said, oh, it would be nice to during my next pregnancy, because I'll be so much more calmer. And, I've practiced learning meditation. I was like, I think it'll be really good, to see how it plays out next time around when I don't have all these anxieties and frustrations and fears and stuff. And like literally 2 weeks later, he told me he was going to get a vasectomy. So I was like, oh, well, there goes that whole thought process. So yeah, no, I didn't have the opportunity to have the pregnancy where, I was praying and stuff. It would be interesting to see how differently it would be, but very blessed to have both two healthy and very wonderful children.
Yeah, that's wonderful then. Yeah, I think we discussed this before, like William, right? So as a doctor, right, you can do more research and write books about how to have beautiful, handsome children, right? Yeah.
Research, wow, it's a lot of work to
Mhm.
do research and to get the people and the time, and there's so many things I'd like to. I mean, even in ancient India, Ayurveda, some of the texts dating even before the Buddha's lifetime, they describe methods on how to have a boy versus have a girl. Now, whether or not they're legit, they've never been studied, but they talk about like looking at a woman who wants to have like a strong boy and wants him to have brown hair and brown eyes should like look at a bowl, like regularly gaze at a bowl that has like brown fur. If you go back and look at it, if you look at it's the Charaka Samhita, there's a whole section on that. So it was a concern back then for sure, just like it is now for some people. So it was I don't know. It'd be good to study that as well. See if that'd be surprising if that wouldn't need them.
But in Western Western medical field, they don't encourage that type of practice, right?
No, there's no method for without like selecting by in vitro fertilization. There's no other method in Western medicine that there's any evidence for how to have a boy or a girl.
Mm-hmm. But they have some guideline how to stay healthy, right, during the pregnancy periods, right? How to take care of the unborn child, but not much in detail, not much in depth, right?
I'd say the biggest single one is the realization of the importance of folic acid. Folic acid supplementation prevents a whole array of congenital deformities. So prenatal vitamins are the single number one, and then avoiding other things.
Yeah. Anyways,
there's not much on the well-being of the pregnant woman though. So I had this problem when I was pregnant with my first child. I was doing all this stuff. I was working full time. I was taking classes, studying for the CPA exam. I mean, I would even go into the doctor's office with my study guides. Like, I mean, I was full on like, and so I presented this to my doctor, and you're right, she did. She told me about the prenatals before I even got pregnant. Take the prenatals. I mean, that was one thing for sure. All the doctor, and all the information was out there. Make sure you take your prenatal vitamins. But when I came to her with the concerns about, hey, I'm going through all this anxiety and all this stress, and I'm concerned about what's happening to my child that's growing within me. She just kind of like, and I don't know if she did it on purpose, so I didn't get more fear and anxiety, but she just kind of laughed it off. And she said, hey, everyone that I've done, what's it called when you have to do when you become a doctor and you have to do your studies?
Residence or rotation.
Residence, yes. She said she brought that up. She said every person that I've done residencies with that were pregnant, when their child was born, they were the most calm and peaceful children. They never cry. They're great kids. And so that was kind of her way of supporting me. But I left thinking, oh yeah, they're so calm because they're so glad to be out of that womb. They're so glad to be out of that pit of despair and anxiety that once they get out, they're so calm. So they were very good about your vitamins and stuff. But if you came to them with any kind of there wasn't any kind of like, oh, you need to. And I don't know if it's just to create less anxiety, but because if they're saying, oh, you need to pray and you need to do this and you need to do this, if they gave you a bunch of things to do to help calm you down, maybe it would just create more, or it's just not a Western thing in general.
Yeah, I think eventually, right, for our next generation, some doctor will find some ways to mingle, right, to merge the Eastern and Western medicines for the sake of human beings, especially how to guide people during their pregnancy, as well as how to be healthy physically, mentally, and spiritually for both the mother and the child. You thầy giáo Pháp, what do you think about this?
Well, I think I said this thing to William and Tammy already when we learned about the bottle state, right? Remember, we that was the lady. She have a 3-time what do you call surgery, right? What do you call in English? What do you call?
Surgeries for like when the baby's being born?
Right.
C-section.
C-section, right. So, and the second time after that, very quick. And because the first one is not yet healed, right? And the second time, it will be, it break that, the first one, right? Easily, right? So the doctor said that you have to give up this baby because mom and the baby will be harmful. And you know what? She and her husband and the new one, they decide to recite the Earth Bodhisattva Sutra for many months. But after a few weeks, they decided, and then the doctor come in and saw to the ultrasound, and then the baby and the mom live very well. And they really surprised. So how would that happen? And you know what? Nearby the time the mom delivered the baby, and you know what? The doctor said that you have to sign all the paper. We are not fully responsible for the whatever happened to you. So, and you know what? They are. Then the mom also trained for it, even though she do the labor deliver, right? So after maybe 30 minutes, it's so quick. They don't believe it. That it's really quick. And the baby and the mom, the baby come out very good, and the mom also okay, no problem. And the baby become very easy, very good baby. It's not crying too much. And the next time, not after that, that means she have two C-section already. And then the third baby is what the doctor said that no, you already have two C-section, and the percentage for breaking this one is very bad, very high. You should not do it. And you know what? The mom did not want to abort because he was devoted Buddhist, right? So she said that I'd rather die. I don't want to abort my baby. So she keep going with the sutra, and she continue to do that, and for the baby come out very good. What does it mean? It's not only for that situation, but for the let's say the mom during the time she have the pregnancy, right? If the doctor see that they either seen the birth defect or some kind of birth defect during the pregnancy, and that means they will suggest that you should not you should abort. And in Buddhism, this is the way that we can pray for it, and it will transform. Remember, the doctor Immortal, right? You learn about the water experiment, right? From the doctor Immortal. So that means the mind and the mouth, the way the action from the mind and the mouth, be able to affect the water. What about the water inside us? We have 70% of water inside us. If we have love and kindness, compassion, and we recite the Buddha teaching, that means love and kindness and compassion, it will transform by itself. So yeah, so it's normal.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, it's time to stop now. Let's just stop here today and come back for next week. Yeah, thầy giáo pháp.
Yeah, Namo fundamental teacher, Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher, Sakyamuni Buddha. Namo fundamental teacher, Sakyamuni Buddha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.